the weight champion, and the only blemish on his record is that first loss to John Jones, and it's unlikely he's going to get that rematch back before he retires. I mean, I would like to see it, and I would obviously like to see John Jones back in the octagon soon. But to be honest, the way that Daniel Cormier beats Jones at this stage in his career is to move up to heavyweight and take that title as well. You know, if he comes in and beats Stipe Miocic and he's a two-weight champion, then he's effectively done what John Jones was planning on doing all along. And then you've got Stipe Miocic, who's the most proven heavyweight champion that we've got, who's now taking on a guy coming up from a different division that has nothing to lose, really. You know, you've got to think if Cormier wins this fight, then he's a two-weight champion. If he loses, he goes back down to light heavyweight, and he's still the king of that division. So I do feel like there's a lot more for Stipe to lose here. And, you know, on top of it being a super fight between two champions, they're also the two biggest men in the UFC. So it is actually the biggest fight if they step on the scales.
Absolutely, figuratively and in reality, this is the biggest fight in the UFC or in all of MMA, not involving a guy called Conor McGregor. Truly believe this is the biggest fight that the organisation could have made this summer for the big July doubleheader spectacular, which they love to do. They always save a big one for this weekend when they do the International Fight Week, and it literally couldn't have got any bigger than this. As Dan pointed out, Cormier going back to heavyweight, a division where he's undefeated in as well, to face Stipe Miocic, who, okay, on paper is the most proven and is the longest reigning UFC heavyweight champion we've had, most defences than anybody, but is also a little bit of a vanilla champion, I've got to be honest. For me, after Mike Tyson ruled the world as the baddest man on the planet in boxing, once the UFC really got a stranglehold on the sport globally, the baddest man on the planet belongs in the UFC. He is the UFC heavyweight champion, and for me, for all his qualities as a fighter, he just does not transcend the octagon, and that's not good business for the UFC. For me, the UFC have made this fight because they want Cormier to win.
That's Dan Hardy on Stipe versus DC. Same sentiments here. I agree with DC, man. The greatest heavyweight, in my opinion, is Cain Velasquez. Sadly, he's not active right now, and we have yet to get info on when he's going to be active. I'm assuming that Cain is retired. I'm really assuming that, simply because we saw the whole what's that UFC show? It's like All Access, Embedded. We saw in Embedded that Cain is back in training. He was training Daniel Cormier, even if it's just for footage for the show. So he's clearly healthy enough to stand. He's clearly healthy enough to train. I don't think he's healthy enough to compete. And do not be surprised if you see later on in the year, after the DC fight, a Cain Velasquez retirement announcement or an exit plan from the UFC. I don't know if Cain is going to come back. His last fight was against Travis Brown. Stellar performance by Cain. Straight up domination, despite the reach advantage for Brown, despite the height and weight advantage for Brown. He just wasn't prepared for that pace, man. And if DC wins, Cain is the greatest heavyweight of all time. If Stipe wins, Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time. If DC wins, right? Honestly, he's already the greatest light heavyweight in my book, despite the losses against John Jones. Why do I say that? John Jones' biggest enemy is himself. If he can't beat his neuroses, if he can't beat the demons he has inside, then he's not undefeated. That's just me speaking. Honestly speaking, my POV. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.